Welcome to the Rocky Mountain Permaculture Institute, where Jerome Osentowski has been co-evolving with a edible forest garden for about 20 years, and I had the great fortune to work here in 1992 and help to establish some of the forest garden that we'll be seeing today during this video. So here we are in the southern portion of Jerome's edible forest garden. The primary species, productive species in the overstory are pears, plums, apples, and apricots. Additionally, in the understory, we see quite a bit of lovage, which is a perennial vegetable that also attracts beneficial insects and is used quite a bit for mulch. Siberian pea shrub is the primary nitrogen fixer, and you see quite a bit of this here at Jerome's. It's very, very common here in the overstory. Here you can see a newly planted hawthorn that's been mulched with Siberian pea shrub cutting from a Coppice pea shrub. As we continue to walk through the forest garden, you see lots of pea shrub, lots of lovage. In fact, a very, very large stand of lovage. Here we have a very nice specimen of a Siberian pea shrub, a red currant, which is a great shade-tolerant species, very productive. This is a very large patch of lovage. I've never seen such a large patch of lovage in all my days. At this point, we're wandering through the garden to the south of the greenhouse, and we've got all manner of interesting species, lots and lots of fruit trees, and I was here when we planted some of these back in '92. This is an area where some annuals are grown, some self-seeding annuals and some more properly planted annuals. So Jerome makes no attempt to kind of segregate his annual and perennial production. Things are all growing mixed together in a very nice example of a polyculture. Just here we can see a nice Russian olive, which is a nitrogen fixer, which is naturalized very well in this particular region. We can see more fruit trees, a real nice canopy, open canopy of fruit trees, and a bunch of interesting species happening in the understory. We have some hollyhocks, which he's a big fan of. There's some purple orac in there as well. More lovage, not a surprise. And here we've got some very, very nice pears coming on. Looks like this one's going to be setting a real nice load of fruit this year. There's our purple orac, very, very nice eating. And Jerome does grow a bunch of very interesting self-seeding annuals in his garden, in particular, which are of interest to me. This way we've got a new shade structure that he's built with a nice seat, and in front we have the sand cherry, or Prunus besseyi. That's a native species with very nice fruit. And heading uphill we have a really beautiful stand of gooseberry, which Jerome uses often as a ground cover here. It's a very, very effective ground cover for him over time. Some nice patch of comfrey. And looking up, we have a terraced hillside that's facing east, and a bunch of annuals growing up here, including some of my very favorite self-seeding annuals that are on display here at Jerome's garden. To our left, we have ordinary lamb's quarters, Chenopodium album, which is a very nice eating green, but this is Jerome's giant lamb's quarters, which he found in an alley in Alberta, Canada, brought home, and it's been reseeding here in his forest garden for 15 years. That species is really good eating. Now we can see the hops that are starting to grow on the shade chair that Jerome put in. Now we're headed over to the pond, and also a very beautiful terraced forest garden, an east-facing terraced forest garden, which is kind of approaching that mid-succession age. There's buffalo berries and hazelnuts and Nanking cherries and all manner of species there. About a quarter of Jerome's forest garden is made up of sort of biological islands of native species, primarily useful ones, including the chokecherry, golden currant, and gamble oak, pinon pine. And these species provide an anchor, a sort of biological anchor for pest control and habitat, and also provide sort of a model and a whole ecosystem feel that otherwise he feels this garden would be lacking. And they also are very lovely elements of the forest garden. Among the other nitrogen fixers on site is a Mongolian astragalus, Jerome likes a lot, and a native mountain mahogany. Now we're coming up the eastern side of Jerome's site here at Rocky Mountain Permaculture. We've got lots and lots of Siberian pea shrub along here, so it's producing extremely well. Jerusalem artichoke, also doing very nicely for itself in the understory. You can see a little bit of the mountains off in the distance there. And we have some lamb's quarter and orac again in the understory. Comfrey. This, I believe, is a very nice plum that we're walking by. Nice and tall. It's probably about 20 years old. This is golden currant, which is native slightly farther east in the Rockies from where Jerome is, but it's producing extremely well and very popular with the birds apparently. Huge patch of gooseberry, and we'll see over and over again just the phenomenal amount of gooseberries that are in the understory here, and what a really dense ground cover they make. Here's more of the giant lamb's quarters, which is such an incredible green to eat raw or for cooking. And more hollyhocks. This is a huge patch of gooseberries in the understory because they layer as they go. They just fill in and fill in. This is Nanking cherry, which produces extremely well for Jerome. Very, very reliable for him. One of the native currants that's found even just down in the gully behind the farm there. Jerome's incorporated that into his design, eating those as well. Mulberry, which he finds fruits pretty well for him. Here's a nice little patch of Jerome's. I think this really has all the elements that make Jerome's forest garden a success. We have, of course, Siberian pea shrub. We have Comfrey, which is chopped and dropped in the understory, as is the Siberian pea shrub, cut and dropped. We have gooseberries, which are a major part of his ground cover and a great fruit producer here. There's some more Comfrey. Of course, a patch of lovage, which is good for pest control. It's a perennial vegetable, and it's chopped and dropped as mulch. And these are those flowers that are so good for attracting beneficial insects, classic Apiaceae or umbelliferae. We have some fruiting trees. There's apricot. Those are currants off in the distance. And in this, we have rhubarb hiding back in there as well. More Siberian pea shrub sitting a nice bunch of beans on that one as a perennial bean crop. Apple, actually that's a plum behind it. We have mountain mahogany for nitrogen fixation. That's a native one. A very, very, very nice load of fruit coming on here. I believe those are apples and looking just beautiful there. Lots of horseradish. Beautiful, beautiful horseradish. Also chop and drop. The other primary component of Jerome's model is self-sowing annuals. He's got lamb's quarters and his giant lamb's quarters and orac and a number of other species that come up year to year, and he occasionally throws some seed around as well for those. But this is a component that provides a lot of food, especially in the early successional stages, but for Jerome continues for quite far into the life of the forest garden, really until there's extensive shade and canopy closure. He's harvesting these crops. So Jerome's 18-year-old edible forest garden shows us that perennial polycultures can provide ecosystem services, be low maintenance and productive, and also that they can be a very, very lovely place to be.